Committee to order. Today is Thursday, August 8th. It's 9:03 a.m. Welcome, everybody. Next on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, do we have anybody sign up for public comment? We'll move on to item 4. We'll do item 4, then we'll make some adjustments within the agenda based on some folks that are here today. So item 4 is approval of July 11th, 2024 Infrastructure Committee meeting minutes. What is your pleasure? We have a motion by Seubert and a second by Jensen. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of approving the July 11th meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion passes. So we are going to move up item 7A, Highway Safety Update, Todd Horn. Thank you, Todd. Welcome.
Thank you.
If you want to come up to the podium.
Yep, I have everything already there. Just want to change gears here real quick. Good morning, everyone. Oh, there we go. Thank you. My name is Todd Horn. I'm a contracted employee for the state of Wisconsin for the Bureau of Transportation Safety, so I'm what's considered a law enforcement liaison. And I travel. I have 17 counties that I'm responsible for. I was just up here yesterday for the TSC, or Traffic Safety Commission meeting here in Marathon County. And Jim, the highway commissioner, asked that I come up and give a talk about really what I do and traffic trends statewide, what's going on in Marathon County, things of that nature. And one of the things that I use predominantly, it's my bread and butter here, is the Community Maps website. That's really. It's supervised, it's managed by the UW system, and I use it just about every day in my duties. And I just wanted to give you a quick tutorial on it, and then a lot of my slides that I'll be using actually use this system. So when you see this first, it'll make it maybe a little more sense. But essentially what it is whenever a law enforcement officer responds to a crash in the state of Wisconsin, they fill out what's called a reportable one where there's at least $1,000 injury, $1,000 damage or bodily injury. They complete a DT 4000. So you can see on this map, those are fatal crashes that have occurred so far this year in the state of Wisconsin. So all I have to do is hover over one of those up in Ashland here, and it'll give me information about that fatal crash. Anyone in the state of Wisconsin, or anyone in the world for that matter, can go on and view this abbreviated crash information. However, if you go into the Advanced tab, and it takes a pre-approval from the UW system in order to go into the Advanced tab. And of course, now I got it. And so now what I can do is I can do a search as well. Let's look at Marathon County. And I'm just going to hit search, and I can search all kinds of different crash types. But here are 3 fatal crashes that occurred in this county. So what I'll do is I'll hover over this one, and when you're in the Advanced tab, you can click on it, and then you can actually look at the entire crash report. So you could be looking at a crash report from Marathon County, Eau Claire County, anywhere in the state of Wisconsin. So that's one of the features that it offers you. Also, predictive analytics, which I'll be going over. It's a way for us to look at crash data and hopefully, at least in some way, kind of predict where our future crashes might be. Also, the dashboard gives us up-to-date information as far as trends in your county. There's a training and there's a TSC resource tab, and so you can go and look at all kinds of information, including here's Marathon County, and here is your county profile. So I grabbed a couple clips off that you'll see during my presentation. So if there's no further questions about that, I'll move into my presentation. So here we go. This is what I was just talking about, the dashboard. So I did a search from January to June of 2024. And what you're seeing here is on the dark blue, that is the time period of January to June of 2024. And the light blue is the last 3 years average, also during those same months, January to June. However, they're combining the top or the last 3 years compared to just January to June of 2024. And what you do then is you can kind of see where you're trending countywide. If you notice where it says all crashes, your crash totals for this year compared to the 3 previous years during the same months is down. Your no injury crashes are down. Your aggressive driving is down. Your teen driver crashes are down. Your speed related crashes are down. Your distracted is down, and your impaired is down. This is all obviously good news. I went too far. How do I get back on here? There we go. Your commercial motor vehicles are holding steady. One thing that I did notice during the TSC meeting yesterday is that your bike crashes do seem to be trending up. There's not a lot of data there. We're looking at 9 crashes versus 4, but even still, it's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, a lot of your crashes with your bicycles are in your more metro areas, so like Wausau and any area that has a lot of bicycle use, obviously. But your lane departures are down, your intersection-related crashes are down, your winter road crashes are down, which obviously we had a really nice winter here. But I was speaking to one of your members before the meeting, and some people wonder, well, why are your crashes down? What's going on? Are you guys doing a really good job? And I think you probably are. A lot of the efforts of the TSC and the sheriffs and police departments, state patrol, but also I kind of wonder if some of the aggressive driving behaviors that were occurring during the pandemic have maybe started to right itself. I don't know. A lot of counties I'm noticing, a lot of the traffic totals are going in the way that we want, so that's good. Moving on, I did do a search for your bicycle crashes from 2019 through July of 24. You had a total of 88 crashes with 80 injuries and 1 fatality. And you can see there's a cluster of them near Wausau in any area that has a little more population. This is the county profiles that I mentioned earlier with community maps and crash trends for Marathon County in general. 564 fatal and injury crashes occurred on per year on average. 564 fatal and injury crashes. Of those 564 crashes that occurred, sometimes there's multiple people injured or killed. So of those crashes, 742 people are on average injured per year. 12 people are killed per year. Where 276 fatal and injury crashes occur on a county or state road, and your peak time for these crashes are between 3 and 4 p.m. And October has the highest number of injury and fatal crashes. This is also off from community maps, but it shows the importance of wearing seatbelts. If you notice, the charts above and below show the level of injury severity by seatbelt usage. No seatbelt worn, you can take a look at the number of fatals in yellow, the number of suspected serious injury in that kind of purpley color, suspected minor injury. You can see how important it is to wear a seatbelt. Now, I discussed earlier predictive analytics. So this is a search that I did for Marathon County specifically. And what we try to do is look at previous crashes, and we try to predict where your crashes will be. So we're in the summer right now, so I did June to August hotspots using the last 3 years of data and all crash types. So that could be fatals, property damage, minor injury, things of that nature. You can see where over the last 3 years where your crashes were and where we're predicting where your future ones could be, not only this summer but into the future, into August as we finish out with the summer. Now, predictive analytics also has analyst areas that will pop up automatically when they see a cluster. And so sheriff's office, police departments can actually use the predictive analytics and use that as a way to gauge where they're at and also maybe make some positive inroads in working those areas. Here's an example. So this is an analysis area number 4 that popped up based on the search that I did, Grand Avenue, Highway 29, Village of Rothschild. And you can see it's along Business 51. It's 0.36 miles that's highlighted there. That's the area that they want to take note of or work on. And if you notice, there's a total of 40 crashes in that area, and it goes all the way from distracted driving, teen driver, aggressive hit and run. So that's an example of how the website can help law enforcement or any traffic safety professional. This slide is a little outdated because I was supposed to give this presentation a week or two ago, but right now, back on July 24th, the state of Wisconsin was at 288 fatal injuries, and 23 at that same time were at 304. I know yesterday in my meeting that we had with the TSC, we now at this year have reached 300. This one's interesting too. I like to compare this now, what's going on now compared to years ago. So these are the 10 safest Junes since World War II and the 10 worst Junes since World War II. If you take a look at the safest ones, we're looking at the 2010s, 2015s, and back into the early 50s, right after the war, 46. And you start looking at the worst Junes, you're looking at mid to late 60s, 70s, leading into the 80s. And I've said this before, but I equate that to better roads, better cars, seatbelts, better EMS, things of that nature that have really, and also trying to work on the drinking culture of the state of Wisconsin. These are your fatal crashes that have occurred over the last 5 years. From January 19 till July 24, you had 55 total crashes. And in those crashes, 61 people were killed and 26 people were injured. But you can see how they're dispersed throughout your county. This is another portion of community maps. This is the training and help. So anyone involved in traffic safety, whether you're at the highway department, sheriff's office, PD, whatever, there's all kinds of, and schools as well, there's all kinds of training videos in order to assist people in all kinds of different traffic safety related matters. Here's a teen driver safety that's available under TSC resources. And also legislative summary. This one's important because you can keep track of what's going on in the state of Wisconsin legislatively just by simply going on community maps and going under the TSC resource and seeing what's going on legislatively. Also, if anyone is interested in taking part or learning how to use community maps, we did start a office hours training, and it's on the second Monday of each month from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And so individuals from the UW, as well as possibly a law enforcement liaison like myself, might be online, and we'd be there for an hour to kind of help you train and learn how to use it for your job duties. So there is the safe system approach is gaining popularity in the United States, and it's a big push in the state of Wisconsin. And if you take a look on the right-hand side with that little wheel, they talk about safe vehicles that are on the roadway, safe speeds, safe roads, post-crash care, and safe road users. Kind of a little bit of what I was talking about, but if you take a look at the portion at the bottom where it shows that road, safe roads, the rest of this presentation really falls in line with safe roads. So these are proven safety countermeasures that have to do with improving our roadways. Many of you will notice that there's been wider edge lines that have been placed on many state roads and even some county roads, going from 4 inches to 6 inches. That's that's been a push, and you're seeing a lot more of that, and I think it's increases visibility and safety on the roadways. Rumble strips and stripes. Obviously, we were just discussing this before the meeting too. You got mumble strips, rumble strips, especially on center lines. I think we've all driven and all of a sudden felt that little rumble, and you righted yourself, rather than continue to operate left of center. Enhanced delineation for horizontal curves. You can see the chevrons in that picture, and also the slow and arrow. Anything to make roadways and curves safer, to cut back on lane deviation crashes. Same thing here with improving design. So that's your DOT and your highway department working to make better roads, cutting trees away, things of that nature. Roundabouts. Obviously, if you have a dangerous intersection and you're not getting a lot of compliance despite everyone's best efforts from law enforcement and designs, and sometimes you just got to go to a roundabout and they're expensive, but they really make a large impact on reducing serious crashes. Warning signs for upcoming intersections. That's very important, and there's a lot of efforts and a lot of new ways to warn motorists as they're approaching intersections. Also, reconfiguration of roadways. So if you have a traditional 4-lane road, what you're seeing now, especially in some of these more urban areas, is making it a 2-lane road and then having bike paths or things on the side, narrowing the road, making it look as if it was a narrow road in order to cause people to naturally want to decrease their speeds. Crosswalk visibility enhancements. I know that's a big effort. Flashing lights, things of that nature. And we're always seeming to want to set the appropriate speeds for a location. And using the 85 percentile, there's now been maybe some new ways of looking at how we set traffic speeds, and it's always maybe a discussion about what's the proper speed for a particular location. Also now a big push towards pavement friction. So in the winter when we got ice and snow, now we can maybe put material on the roadways to make it so the vehicles don't spin out as easily. So that's what I have. Any questions at all?
Is anybody on the committee? Mr. Dickinson?
So you mentioned roundabouts, and is there data showing that roundabouts are safer?
I think I've heard, I'm not really an expert on that matter, but what I will say about roundabouts is they will, when you have like a really bad intersection and you're having serious injury crashes, a roundabout being placed at that location might not cause fewer accidents or crashes, but what it'll do is it'll cut back on the serious crashes. There was a location in my home county on Highway 51 at Highway 60 and 22, and we had quite a few fatals there, and the state came in and put a roundabout in, and it made a significant, change. So
One question on roundabouts. I noticed typically they have no like yellow or orange paint, like around the center. It's typically some sort of, it looks like a darker, maybe a brickish color or something like that. It would seem to me that maybe that would be edged in a paint.
Jim
but I
might
don't
be able
know.
to answer that better, but I know a lot of like larger trucks are meant to ride on that center portion. Because when you first put a roundabout in, people will call and complain and say, why is that truck driving up on the roundabout? They're not supposed to be there. Actually, that's how they're designed. So I don't know if that's the reason why you're seeing some roundabouts without the painted. I don't know. I can't really answer that.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Soyward?
Thank you. Is there any data out there on before rumble strips and after rumble strips? Intersections where there's a lot of accidents before and then they put rumble strips in.
I don't have anything to offer you at this moment, but what I will say is through personal experience, I was with the sheriff's office for 26 years, and the rumble strips are a cheap, effective way in order to bring the intersection to people's mind as they're approaching. Some people get really upset about it; they don't like the noise, and so now a lot of people are moving to mumble strips, on the sides of the road. Personally, I think they're very effective. And they're inexpensive, and we can't put a roundabout in every intersection. They're very expensive. So,
Okay, and the newer vehicles seem to all have that technology. If you get to the center line, it vibrates. If you get too far right, it vibrates.
yeah, my car has that too. Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
thank you.
Good point.
Any other questions, comments? I can say after being in Oshkosh last weekend, in terms of roundabouts, they sure love them there. Well, we thank you for your time.
Thank you. You bet.
We will go back up on the agenda. Item 5, policy issues discussion, potential committee determination. 5A, consideration of final resolution regarding unconditional county guarantee of its pro rata share intergovernmental agreement and taxable revenue bond financing for Bug Tussle 2 LLC project. I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair Pfiffer. Scott Feld from Bug Tussle is here today, but I just want to, again, set the stage for us. We are, earlier this summer, we had, as a board, adopted an initial resolution relative to conduit bonding for 2 projects associated with Bug Tussle. And Bug Tussle is looking to take a similar or engage 10 counties in conduit bonding, and they're looking for approval during the month of August for In those 10 counties, total bonding will be for $109 million. Scott will provide an overview of the project, and then I'll fill in some details on what it means to Marathon County and why we're doing this, and then we'll see if you have any questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Supervisor Robinson. Yes, Bug Tussle is looking to continue to provide broadband internet access to counties throughout the state of Wisconsin. Currently, we are looking at a bond issuance that includes 10 counties, including Marathon County, for a total of $109 million. Marathon County's portion of that 109 would be $12 million. I'm providing some information that Supervisor Robinson is passing out to kind of just give a quick overview of who I am, who Bug Tussle is, and the project that we're looking for, and addressing possible concerns that we have heard from county board supervisors here in Marathon County. First of all, my name is Scott Felton. I am the Director of Public Affairs for Bug Tussle, but prior to that, I was the County Administrator for Kewaunee County. If you're not sure where Kewaunee County is, it is the welcome mat, not the doormat, of Door County. I was there for over 8 years, and during that time when I was County Administrator, we had done a couple different projects with Bug Tussle. The first one dealt with towers, of which the agreement was to put in 7, and Bug Tussle put in 9, which covered I want to say, over 80 to 90% of our county. The second one is a fiber project, which is providing 60 miles of fiber to the county. They were also looking, as I left, to do another project that would do another 60 miles within Kewaunee County. So that is honestly what led me to the position that I have today, because I absolutely agree with Bug Tussle's mission of trying to provide broadband to rural areas. So Bug Tussle was founded in 2001 by Steve Schneider. For those of you that have been on the board for a bit, Steve has visited Marathon County before. He had previously worked for Cellcom and decided to start his own business. That was to bring cellular service to rural Wisconsin. Then in 2015, it was expanded to provide wireless service. And then starting in 2020, we are now going into the fiber area of providing broadband service to rural areas. So with the $12 million, we're looking at 2 projects that encompass that $12 million bonding request. The first one is to complete the middle mile fiber and towers project that was originally done from the first bonding project. I can touch base on that in a second. The second is to provide the matching funding for the construction of a last mile fiber project in the Leather Camp area or town of Mosinee. So why we're asking for additional money for the middle mile project. When we did the bonding last year, that was for $25 million. And I want to make sure that we clarify that the $25 million was for both towers and fiber. And when we're talking about that, $25 million, a good portion, a significant portion, probably about $4 to $5 million, is set aside in a debt reserve fund, because when we talk about capital projects, they do not generate revenue right away, but the bonds still need to be paid. So money is set aside in that in that debt repayment fund to start making some of those payments the first few years. So when we're looking at the Middle Mile project, I know that there are some questions regarding it. So what was the issue that happened that the project was not able to be completed? There's a number of different factors, some that are not within our control, some that were within our control. The ones that were within our control is that when we contracted with our subcontractor to do the work, the subcontractor did not do an adequate job. And so with those mistakes, we are having to pay for that and clean that up. We let that contractor go and hired a new one. For those of you that have been around the county, you may have seen trucks from the Michaels Corporation going about. Michaels has many years of experience of putting in pipe and digging underground. So we have retained them, and we have roughly 6 crews and about 30 laborers throughout the county doing work. So that was part of the issue. Parts that were beyond our control had to do with the prevalence of rock when we first started. We did not foresee the amount of rock that was involved with the project. When we talk about rock, then you have to bore through rock, which makes it incredibly more expensive. Actually, that caused delays as well as increased costs. Delays was roughly 3 months, and the increase in cost was well over $3 million. So we're looking for this additional bonding to provide a loan to Bug Tussle to complete the project. And while it's unfortunate, cost overruns do take place, especially in large capital projects. And what we are looking for is we're seeking additional funding as a loan to finish the project and then return that money plus interest to Marathon County. I would give as an example is there are numerous examples of projects, whether they be road projects or building projects, that when they're first started, when they end, they usually are not the same cost. They're usually an increased cost from when the project first started. Unfortunately, that's a common thing. But as a county, if you were to do a road project and the cost were to be higher, I think it would be odd that the county would not finish the road. Though it may cost more, you would put in the additional money to complete the project. The difference in this project is that it would be money loaned to Bug Tussle. It would not be money that the county would not get back. As for the second project, there is a PSC grant from 2022 that provides last mile fiber to the town of Mosinee area. And within that $3 million grant is a match of $3 million, which Marathon County had agreed to provide that $3 million match. So we're looking for that as part of this funding as well. Again, for those of you that have been around, you have seen that there are Michaels construction crews within the Leather Camp project, again, putting in the conduit and putting in the fiber. We expect to have that project done before the end of 2024. As a reminder, just for County Board Supervisors, is that, again, this would not be, if you're issuing bonds, this is money that essentially becomes a loan to Bug Tussle, which is paid back, of which you receive 40 basis points on all outstanding debt, which comes out approximately to about $100,000 a year in revenues to the county. So we had also heard that there were some concerns regarding the term of conduit bonding, it being 30 years when typically 20 years is what is done for most bond issues. Again, broadband projects are very capital intensive, and as a revenue project, you don't start building and receive revenue right away. That takes a number of years, and therefore for it to pencil out, a 30-year bond makes it more affordable for Bug Tussle to do the project and make the payments back. This is similar to folks doing a 30-year mortgage. You can do a 10, 15, 20-year mortgage, but predominantly people use a 30-year mortgage. Why? Because they can make the payments and they're able to manage those payments much better than if they did a shorter-term loan. We've had questions about guarantees to the county, and you should ask those as the protectors of public funds. That's something that needs to be done. Bug Tussle enters into an agreement with Marathon County that stipulates all the necessary legal and financial requirements that would be needed. These agreements have been looked at by your county's corporation council, by the bond counsel that the Marathon County retains, and by the financial advisor that Marathon County retains. So you have had a number of experts look at these documents, look at these projects, and have given their opinion to you. That was looked at in a similar way last year and was approved by the county. Again, we're looking at it that we understand that with this being taxpayer funds, you want to be very careful. And the guarantees that we put in there is that if Bug Tussle cannot make the payments, then its guarantor, our parent company, Hilbert Communications, will make those payments. And if the worst case scenario happens and neither one of those can make the payments, then Marathon County owns the capital assets of towers and fiber, and they can do with those assets as they see fit. We know that these capital assets do have value. Prior to getting into fiber, Bug Tussle was very successful in building towers and then selling them. And when we were selling those towers, that was usually for twice the cost of what it was to construct those towers. Both towers and fiber have a long shelf life in the span of decades, similar to roads. As for the radios and the circuits that are attached to those assets, those have a shorter shelf life, but that is maintenance, of which when those need to replace, Bug Tussle replaces those. That's similar to any type of maintenance that you would have with a building where there are certain systems that you may need to fix up on a building or maintain or improve. Finally, what are the advantages of this project? We know that with the project, with the towers, you will have improved public safety communications for your E911 and for your sheriff's department. You will have better cell service because there are more towers. In fact, I may not have mentioned, currently there are 16 towers live, which is what was requested in the original 2021 bond issue. So we have done the 16 towers. Also advantages is that with the fiber, you will have improved broadband access to roughly 1,800 residents, whether through tower or through fiber. Completion of from a longer term standpoint, the completion of the middle mile project sets you up and has a good foundation for further last mile or fiber to the home projects, which you're going to be seeing through BEAD. And so this middle mile, you can't do the last mile if you don't have the middle mile. So this is important from that aspect, that you will have the middle mile in place. And then finally, through this project, you will receive an additional 40 basis points, which comes out to roughly $100,000 a year. Also in your packets, I had put in 3 different maps. one that identifies what are the OLT or the fiber segments, the other that identifies the 22 towers that are planned in Marathon County. Again, 16 of them are green, which means they are online. And then the last map just puts them all together so that way you can see it from a larger standpoint. I'm not sure if there are questions or concerns. I would prefer that ask me the hard questions, because I understand that this is a large amount of money that is asking to be bonded, and we want to be sure that that the board is comfortable in issuing the bonds to help us to complete the project. We believe, and this is how we're different than others, what we've seen in some of these projects is that if it doesn't pencil out, you're seeing some providers walk away, whether that's through other state grants, whether that's through federal grants. They're walking away because they believe that it does not meet their financial model. And what we want to do is we're committed to trying to provide this service to Marathon County and to the rural areas. So we want to, with your help, continue to do that and complete the project. With that, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to remind you why we're here. Our strategic plan objective 8.7 says we should strive to provide affordable high-speed internet access throughout the county. We have been working with internet service providers over the last several years. We did our own study conducted by Design9 that was done in 2019, released in 2020, that called for a county-built system of middle mile and towers. And we met with the internet service providers at that time and said, if we build it, will you rent from us? And the answer was a unanimous no, they wouldn't. So we can't under state law provide that last mile service. So we really are forced to work with internet service providers. And we've done that through the pursuit and support of Public Service Commission grants. There have been supplemental or the programs on the federal level through the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, which Charter Spectrum is doing a lot of work on the western side of the county. We had looked to LTD Broadband to do a significant portion of that. However, the FCC disqualified them because they were concerned about their financial ability to pay. So we've worked on partnerships, and we've worked and submitted grant applications with a significant number of internet service providers with limited success. And we continue to work with anybody and everybody that comes to the table. One of those partnerships is with Bug Tussle relative to the 2021 conduit bonding, under which they agreed to basically create that middle mile connection throughout the county and connect it to towers. They had asked for $25 million of bonding. Under that agreement, we had access to those towers. We have space on those towers, and that came into play when the Dancy DNR tower was no longer determined to be usable. And we saved over $200,000 by our ability to connect or put our equipment on their tower. So there was a material savings to the county. In addition, we receive 24 strands of fiber for our use that we are, Jerry's got it in the budget, lighting up some of that fiber, and once it's connected, it will help us with law enforcement and in other activities. We also receive 40 basis points on the outstanding balance, and that is amounted to $100,000 a year. They experienced some management issues. They experienced some cost overruns. Unlike Frontier, which we had a PSC grant with them, they were going to serve 10,000 homes throughout the county. They withdrew their grant application earlier this year. They were supposed to have it done by the end of the year. We had pledged $933,000 of ARPA money toward that. That leaves us needing to fill that void. Because of cost overruns, Charter withdrew or requested several sites in eastern Marathon County not be included in the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund area. So costs have driven other providers to walk away from projects. And in the difference here is that Buck Tussle has come back and say, we want to honor our commitment and move forward, but we need more money to do so. And the Leather Camp project serving Croninwater, Knowlton, and Gunther was a commitment that we made back in 2022 as part of that grant application. They had asked us for $1.5 million grant. We said, that's too rich. We will give you a grant of $142,000, a forgivable loan, but then we will work with you on obtaining funding. We thought we could do that through ARPA. At the last minute, we found out that ARPA was not eligible because the payment period would be beyond the eligible or the 2026 deadline. We then looked at fund balance, and they approached us relative to conduit bonding. Conduit bonding is a much better approach for the county than using fund balance as a loan to them. So we're before you today to ask for your support for this issue. We have a partnership with Buck Tussle. If they don't receive the funding, it delays their ability to do work and potentially puts part of the project at jeopardy. And I think that this is not unlike a change order or a reflection. We have the guarantees in place. There is the reserve fund, and we are first in line relative to the assets should they default. And this middle mile fiber also positions us better when we go into the BEAD program, and Erin's on the line and she can give you an update on where we are with that. But by having the middle mile, the difference between Buck Tussle and others is they let other companies use their fiber and connect to their fiber. They have partnerships with a number of small providers. I know that Serenity is one of those companies, but they can build off that system and hopefully provide service to some of the 9,000 people that have been identified in BEAD as being eligible out of the 15,000 approximately rural residents. It will allow them to hopefully get internet access quicker and hopefully cheaper.
Thank you. Just one piece of housekeeping first. I want to note that Supervisor Voll is joining us on WebEx, so he's also here, has questions, comments. Please speak up. Just for context for our discussion here today, Supervisor Robinson, can you explain that? Because I believe Finance has moved this on to County Board already. So what action or what are you looking for on this discussion item today?
Finance met yesterday because of the timing of things. Originally, it would have gone to infrastructure and then come to finance, but because the meeting was delayed a week, if you wish to take a position in support of the request, that would be great. If we can, it can be informational or action.
Okay, thank you.
Finance did approve it yesterday.
I'll open it up to discussion of the committee. Any questions, comments, or a motion? Supervisor Jensen.
Thank you. A few questions. So with the ARPA dollars, it's mentioned on here that with the additional funding, the project could be completed in 2024 for Leather Camp. Is there a reason we couldn't use ARPA dollars for the Leather Camp project?
We are using ARPA dollars for a portion of the Leather Camp. We have pledged money to a number of projects. And in this case, we pledged $235 per crossing as a forgivable loan using ARPA dollars. And the reason we can do that is that the expense and the reimbursement are all occur within the 2024 obligation period and the 2026 end of expenditure. The problem with a 30-year loan and using ARPA dollars, we can't do it. We spent time talking with legal counsel, and Mike is here, but for the Wisconsin Counties Association, and we just couldn't use ARPA dollars. If we gave them a grant, we could do it, but if we do a loan, it extends beyond the term and is not an eligible expense under ARPA.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson.
So in follow-up to that, so we couldn't directly fund through ARPA that $3 million?
We could directly fund if the county board, well, we don't have $3 million left right now, but we could, yes. If you were to give it as a grant or a forgivable loan, you could do that one project.
Well, we're looking at a loan, correct, that would be repaid
Right.
with interest.
Right.
Yeah. Just some, you got something, go ahead.
I have other questions.
Okay. Just one of my questions on this, and overall, I'm in support of the project. It's a dire need within that area, knowing that area, Cronin, Wetter, Knowlton quite well. Especially pandemic, there was a lot of families that when they weren't able to have access to internet and schooling and everything, put them at a major disadvantage. And overall, I'm in support of the project. One of my questions is on co-location on your towers, because that has been something that's come up and was some frustration specifically with that Leather Camp tower that went up. I understand you have AT&T service on there currently, but what's your policy on co-location?
For any tower that we own, we are always open to any tenant, whether that would be T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon. In fact, we have those tenants on other towers within the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you. I know one of the big issues and on the zoning side of it and just within the typical area around the towers, it's always somewhat of a contentious issue with a tower going up and some conflicts with that. So anytime we can limit the number of towers that we're putting up within the county, I think it's a major advantage. Supervisor Dickinson.
If I could just address that
Yeah.
issue. I think unfortunately you will see more towers go up just by the nature of cellular service as you go into the next generation. As we move from 4G to 5G, you have a stronger signal for a shorter distance, therefore require an additional tower. So I understand the concern over the location of the towers. However, the changes in technology and the effectiveness of cellular services dependent upon more, not less.
It's an interesting concept. As we had 3G, I had great service within that area. As it went to 4G, now I don't, so.
And just for clarification, Mr. Chair, depending on which tower we're talking and where its location, they may be towers that we don't specifically own, but that we have equipment up on that tower, so we're renting space on that tower. And so depending on which tower of which Leather Camp may be one of those, we do not own the tower, so therefore the owner of that tower would determine what tenants can and cannot be on that tower.
Supervisor Dickinson.
Thank you. So I have a few questions, but I want to make a couple points, and very respectfully, the strategic plan is mentioned. It doesn't mean we have to do it. It means we strive to do it. I think we've been striving to do it. We're at that point where we have this kind of, you're running a sprint, and are you going to finish up the last 100 of your 400, right, so to speak? You're at the end of this. So the strategic plan can always be, it's used as a guide. Number two, respectfully, you mentioned the road analogy. Roads are 100% necessary. Broadband is not. It's not quite the same. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And I'm saying that very respectfully in that conversation. Safety. So as safety is mentioned, EMS, 911 service, you mentioned 16 towers are live. So we're seeing better 911 service already. Does anyone have any data on that? Has Public Safety Committee commented, or Sheriff's Department, or anyone, Highway Department? Are we seeing, is there better?
I don't know. I can speak if I may. I don't know that we have any specific data about that. I can tell you that the AT&T coverage has improved over the last 2 years because of those towers. Okay. So there's anecdotal information because I know AT&T coverage has improved.
Sure. Okay. So in that regard, then, when we're talking about safety, what is necessary for the EMS, the 911 portion of this? Is it the fiber and the towers? Is Leather Camp necessary for the safety part of this?
If I may, so the the facilities access agreement with them gives us access to 24 strands of fiber, and any of the towers that are on there that they own, we have access to put equipment on. We have identified a couple of locations where we have really poor paging coverage and really poor radio coverage. The Leather Camp one is one of them. One of the ones that we're very particularly interested in is the one up in just to the east of Little Chicago. We have significant problems with fire and police paging, and if you think about a squad car out on the road, they usually have two radios, right? They have the radio in the car, which has a pretty high power antenna on it, and then they have the radio that's on their belt. And in that strip, if you look on their map, that piece that goes through Hamburg and Naugert, that is an area that the sheriff's department has identified that we have consistent problems in. So once they're done building that out, it's our intention to put at least paging on there, if not changing some of our radio signals. In the Athens, Hamburg, and Naugert tower areas, those are particularly ones that we've identified. And then the other one is the O'Plain Park area. That's an area that we have really poor paging service and poor radio coverage. I think Leather Camp has been mentioned to me, but it wasn't in our original list of, hey, these are high priorities for us.
Okay, if I can continue. So, and thank you for that. Project 1 was the fiber loop and the towers. That was what we originally agreed to. Project 2 was the Leather Camp that came on afterwards in 2022. I'm very supportive of the project. I've always been very supportive of the project. And I would like to see completion of the project that we originally agreed to. So in my priority list, I say, however we do that, that would be my priority. The Leather Camp, that's why I asked a question about using ARPA dollars and all that. So I just throw that out there. And then the last thing I was going to mention is the maintenance. Like, I think you had answered some of this, Scott, and that was, who maintains the fiber, the conduit, the lines, the towers years from now? Does the county ever have are we going to be involved in the costs of that, or is the companies who own that, or how does that work?
If I may answer, yes, thank you, Supervisor Dickinson. As for the maintenance, that is solely the responsibility of Bug Tussle, since we would be the owners of the fiber and of the towers. So therefore, replacement of equipment, maintenance of equipment, all of those requirements, whether from a regulatory or statutory standpoint, are the responsibility of Bug Tussle. And the belief is that once they're up, we have subscribers and the like. The revenue that is then generated helps to continue to not only pay back the loan that was provided to Bug Tussle, but also sets money aside for continued maintenance of those towers and fiber. If I may, I just want to go slightly back, and with all respect as well, roads are needed and broadband is not. I will both agree but not agree. In this day and age, broadband is now considered the fourth utility. You have water and sewer, you have heat and electricity, and you have gas and electric, and you have broadband. I know when I was in Kewaunee County that couples were making home purchase decisions on whether there was internet access. Businesses make decisions on whether there is internet access. Decades ago, it would have been thought with running water or electricity were those necessities, and now it is considered a necessity for anyone in a home that they have heat, that they have electricity, that they have water and sewer. And now in our modern time, the same thing goes with broadband. So I'll respectfully disagree.
If I could just, let me
I just
follow
want
up.
to, please let me just answer that one point, because I probably said that the wrong way. I think it would be more apropos to say, I live in the village of Stratford, I have water and sewer. Somebody lives 3 miles out, they have a well. So it's the level of service is really what I'm talking about in that regard. We would not stop building a road that we agreed to build to because there's a reason we're building to that point. We wouldn't then just, but we do have some roads that are gravel.
I will, and I
that-
thought
I
about
think
the
we're-
gravel road as well, and most people would, and I respect and I agree with your point, Supervisor Dickinson. I would believe that more people would want to live on a paved road than on a gravel road, but I do understand what you're saying.
I do want to just,
And not chip seal, but that's another discussion.
I want to just point out, the county is incurring costs associated with our accessing those portions of the infrastructure that benefit us. The 24 strands of fiber, we have to pay to light those up. We will have costs associated with those in the future, but it's to our benefit. We will have costs associated with placement of our equipment on the towers, and we may have some additional costs associated with the design of those. So we have cost in the case of the towers. There's a significant savings by our ability to put our equipment on their costs. So I do want to make it clear that we do have some cost.
Exactly, and that would be the county's equipment that is put on there, and therefore the county would be responsible for that. But as for the towers and any other equipment that is owned by Bug Tussle, that is Bug Tussle's responsibility.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Jerry, and then
I just want to quick point out, there's one tower that has a little unique situation, and that is the one that they just built on what they call Oak Lane Park on that map. We had a strong interest in getting on that because we were on a DNR tower about 2 miles away that was falling apart and was going to cost us a lot of money to build, and the DNR didn't want to replace it. So Captain Milhausen, Chief Deputy Milhausen, worked with them to encourage them to build this tower as fast as possible. And one of the deals we made was that we would put in the generator, and the county would pay for the generator. So we would have maintenance on that generator. That particular tower was unique because it was a huge area gap that we had, and we had to get off the DNR tower.
Supervisor Schweibert.
Thank you. It's been brought up that we're going to need more towers. Is there a tower wish list and a cost of that tower wish list and what year that could be implemented? Or are we going to come back here in 2 years for $5 more million? Or are we going to come back in 10 years for $20 million?
I think what you're talking about, Supervisor, is when we talk about a wish list is, I think that is coming more from the mobile carriers themselves as folks continue to have, as the chairman had said, they used to have 3G and everything worked fine. And now as you get to 5G and more data needs to get pushed out, the towers need to be closer. And that then behooves the mobile carriers or tower owners to continue to do additional towers. Or what happens is you will have, which Bug Tussle is doing, have fiber go to towers, which will provide backhaul capability, which therefore allows the towers to handle more traffic. And so, as well as we know that from an industry standpoint, that technology is continuing to improve, and so they're able to do more with the towers that they have. But is there still the possibility of more towers? Yes, there probably is, but that isn't something that necessarily that the county would be look to fund.
Okay, can get a follow-up to that. So when we go from 3 to 4 and from 4 to 5, how many people are going to lose service between those towers? I mean, how many people in Marathon County are going to have poor service because the technology went from 3 to 4 and 4 to 5, and we don't have enough towers?
That I couldn't answer for you, Supervisor. I think that is something that, again, when you're looking at your cellular companies and your mobile carriers, that is something that we've seen that as industry standards go up, that more needs to be done, very similar to computers. When you think of what used to be needed to operate a computer with RAM, and now those processors have to continue to be upgraded, and computers need to be upgraded because the software that they're using on their computers is requiring more RAM and more heft. So I can't specifically answer what that would be for the future. That is, again, something that would be directed more towards the mobile carriers.
I'd like to try to, is that the intent of this project was to provide Wi-Fi service. One of the benefits of constructing the towers is that cellular service is improved, or there's an opportunity to put the equipment on. The focus, though, is on broadband access. We've been working on trying to get internet service providers to look at locating and providing service to the home. The federal goal and the Public Service Commission goal is fiber to the premise, not Wi-Fi. But I think to pick up on Supervisor Dickinson's thought process is that there are certain places where you're not going to run 2 miles of fiber through rock for one person. You're going to look at an alternative delivery system. And it may be at the end of the day that a couple more towers might be in line. Maybe we subsidize a connection to SpaceX and some satellite service. But what we're trying to do is get the biggest bang for the dollar. And right now, the dollars are chasing fiber to the premise. Wi-Fi, there is a Wi-Fi eligibility for based on level of service, but I think we'll respond when we look at where there are gaps in service in the future. But you need that middle mile for that backhaul and the speed. But we're not planning right now. The broadband task force has not looked at any additional towers. I think the whole issue of cellular service and reliability of that is worthy of discussion. I know my personal experience is that every time I drive up north, areas I used to have service, I don't. And so it's a statewide problem, but I don't know what the answer is, Tom.
Thank you.
I guess in the interest of time, this will be moving on to council. I just want to say in terms of something Mr. Felt said about the importance of fiber in this days, I think that areas that don't have it, there is an economic disadvantage to those areas, and it is becoming as important as some of those other utilities. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is your motion in support of the resolution? All right, we have a motion in support of the resolution. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by
Randy.
Vol.
It's Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Anyone in support of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed?
Yep.
We have 2 noes. All right, we have 4 yeses, 2 noes. That'll move on to county board. I can't remember the date for this month, correct, Mr. Robinson? 20th, thank you. Appreciate the robust conversation. I expect the same when we get to the 20th. Next on our agenda is item B. My computer timed out. So it is 5B, discussion regarding 2025 annual budget development and policy recommendations from the committee, including review of the mandatory discretionary program document and discussion of rates and fees.
So as you know, this is just a standing item on the agendas, leaving the opportunity open for any questions, comments, thoughts that have come up in between meetings for anything relating to budget development. So if there are comments or issues that people want administration or others to look into, this would be the space where we would bring that up. And then if we have answers, we can get back to you today. If not, then we look into it and bring it back to your next meeting.
Anybody on the committee have anything they'd like to discuss? Seeing none, we look forward to future discussions on this as well. Moving on to item 6, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy. 6A, discussion and possible action by the Infrastructure Committee to recommend to HR, Finance, and Property Committee. 1, Highway Department Administrative Office Restructuring Plan for inclusion in the 2025 annual budget. I'm going to turn this over to our Highway Commissioner.
Thank you. Currently, we have a position within our department as a administrative specialist. That became vacant last February. Since that time, we've been kind of holding things together a lot by luck and a lot to contribute that we have a intern in our office that is in her senior year of going to school for business administration and with the emphasis in finance. So she's been helping Mary greatly with our accounting process. Currently, Mary is the only person in the administrative office right now as a full-time position. What we'd like to do is take that position that we have right now as that administrative specialist. We feel the person that we have in there right now can handle those duties and change that position to an accounting specialist. We worked with Molly Aztek in our HR department. She sent the job description to McGrath for a review. It came back to be labeled as an accounting specialist too. So I know the committee a lot of time is concerned with dollars and cents. If you take that administrative specialist position that we have in the budget and we add what we have in there right now for a LTE, which we always can't find. Like I said, we've been very fortunate to find what we have right now. So we would still need a LTE if we would have the administrative specialist. It would come into a net of $3,200 more than if we just changed the position to a full-time position as an accounting specialist too, instead of the administrative specialist. Again, it would give us a savings of $3,200 and would provide a backup for Mary with an accounting, somebody with an accounting background instead of administrative specialist.
Any questions, comments from the committee? Supervisor Dickinson.
So yesterday at HR Finance, there was a discussion about the audit, and Lance had mentioned kind of the need for more financial personnel in the administration, whether they're within the department or there's a separate kind of financial. I think this aligns with that, and that you have someone working in that accounting financial side. And so I would even make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Dickinson. Second from Seubert. Any further questions, comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We are on to item 6B, discussion and possible action by the Infrastructure Committee to forward to County Board for consideration. Number 1, amendment to 2024 budget transfer from reserve funds for emergency repair culvert, County Highway O. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, my computer froze up, so timed out. Part of the program this year, if you recall, last year we talked about the 6 to 20 culvert inspections. Chris Bagoon from our office has been going through all of our county culverts. On County Trunk Highway O, during his inspection, with the extra rainfall this year, he came upon a culvert on Highway O. Kevin can give you all the details if you like. It was part of your packet. But basically, we need to replace a culvert. The culvert was not planned for replacement at this point. It has 20 feet of fill on it, so it's a major project. It's probably a 2-week project to replace a culvert. Kevin can, again, if you have questions on the details of the size of the pipe, he can give you that. But again, I know you guys love numbers. So we're looking at taking a transfer of our reserves of $230,000 to replace this pipe. We'll be replacing it with a couple concrete pipes, so hope nobody in this room or children or ever have to worry about that pipe again. Again, this is on Highway O, just north of Highway 29. Wausau's new industrial park is just north of that, so it's a very crucial truck route that we get in there and get this pipe resolved before we have to replace any restrictions on that road. That is an all-season road that we prepaid a few years back, so again, it's a major truck route, and we're looking for a budget transfer.
Questions, comments from the committee? Supervisor Dickinson.
I just make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Dickinson. Second by Gisselman. Any further questions, comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the motion for moving forward with the transfer from the reserve funds signify by saying aye. 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 Anybody opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everyone. We already handled 6B2, so we're going to move on to educational presentations and committee discussion. A was already covered, so we'll go to B, update from CCIT projects, including Workday project status. Take it away, Jerry.
Information is in your packet. There's updates in there. In the interest of time, I know you got a long meeting, so I can just be available for questions.
Any questions, comments on the report? Hearing none, we're going to move on to item 7C, Central Wisconsin Airport update. We're joined by our Assistant Director today.
Thank you, Chair, for welcoming me here. My name is Mark Seiler, Assistant Airport Director, Central Wisconsin Airport. I have some slides that I prepared that I'll pull up on the screen if anybody's interested. I do have some hard copies printed off as well. So just going to go over an update of several infrastructure projects that have been completed in recent years, and then some of the things we have in works currently. You may have heard, be familiar with our runway decoupling project, which was completed in 2013. A couple pictures there. Two key things were accomplished throughout this project. One, separating the two runways to avoid a wrong runway departure risk. As crazy as that sounds, it's a low probability but high risk safety item that FAA was pushing really hard to get resolved nationwide, and our airfield configuration was identified as a safety risk. So with the project, we were able to accomplish that. Our big ask, or two big asks, were to maintain runway length, which there was some back and forth with the FAA. We were able to accomplish that. We didn't want to sacrifice utility of the investments that the community has made into the airport. The other objective was to reestablish the approach lighting system that crosses I-39 for approach into runway 8. So that lighting system was out of service for almost 10 years exactly, and with this project we were able to get those lights back online. So great success of a project. While that project was being constructed, we were also starting to look at future projects. We conducted a 2023 terminal area master plan. Master plan is an FAA process of looking at all facilities. We had conducted an airport master plan in 2016 to 2019, looking at mainly the airfield. This terminal area master plan really was focused on the ramp area, general aviation facilities, a little bit in the commercial terminal, but really the focus was east of the commercial terminal. Great community feedback from our users, a lot of business engagement throughout the process, and we completed that up, got FAA support for the terminal area master plan in February of this year, and we've started to move on to implementation of a couple of the projects. So just a quick overview of what all was studied. Projects identified on here as 1 and 2 is expansion of airport facilities for airport rescue firefighting, snow removal equipment, storage operations, and maintenance facilities. Number 3 here is a general aviation terminal building facility to replace the current 1970s building that serves all of the general aviation users of the airport. We've seen significant increases in jet traffic for businesses coming to our community, and the current facilities don't quite meet the need currently. So I'll be sharing a little bit more. We're moving forward with that project. And number 5 here is a large transient hangar. Those customers coming to the airport with larger jets, we don't have a public space available for them to get inside during inclement weather in the wintertime. So they're forced to de-ice, divert elsewhere, maybe reposition the plane if severe weather's coming through. So it's definitely a need, and right now there's a unique funding opportunity for us to get a large transient hangar built. So those are two projects. This general aviation terminal building is enabling for our airport facilities. So we're in the early design stages. I'll share a little bit on that. And we're in full design on the transient hangar. Another project that is about to be completed in September is renovations to our air traffic control tower, centrally located on the ramp. Here's just kind of a rendering of the cab of the facility, and basically we're going to be shutting down the tower for about 2 weeks, completely gutting it, and replacing all of the cabinetry and then all of the equipment that the controllers use for communicating with aircraft. So if you hear anybody saying, hey, I heard the airport's shutting down for 2 weeks, no, the airport will stay open. It's just the tower will be closed during that time. Aircraft will still be able to utilize the airport without any restrictions. But a lot of improvements. That tower was originally built in 1990 by the airport. All the equipment is owned by the airport, and it's reached end of life. So great opportunity there. And that, like I said, that'll be happening just after Labor Day. The transient hangar that I mentioned, we are in full design, looking to bid the construction out in October. And those are just some renderings of what the facility is going to look like right off of the ramp, and going to be a great asset. We've already had tenants at other airports already inquiring about space. This is going to be one of the few publicly accessible hangars in the state that your larger corporate jets will even fit inside of. So going to be a great asset to the community. Funding for that hangar, cost estimate about $4.4 million. The bipartisan infrastructure law provided funding to the airport with a unique opportunity to get federal funding to build a hangar. Typically, our traditional airport improvement funding we receive from the FAA is not eligible for hangar construction, and so this is just a unique opportunity to use BIL funding to bring an asset that's really going to help generate additional traffic and help attract more businesses to our community. There is a 10% local match that of about $400,000 that'll be paid for out of airport funds. And we've already budgeted for that in our 2023 annual budget. The next project I mentioned is that general aviation passenger terminal building. These are just, I've got two preliminary renderings of what the facility might look like. This was presented to the airport board a few weeks ago. This is just one possible rendering, and here's another. It's about a 6,000 square foot facility is what we're looking at. This kind of shows our final footprint. We're through 30% design on the facility, and kind of looking, the colors indicate kind of the different funding eligibility for federal funds. The bluish areas are eligible for traditional airport improvement project funding from the FAA, and the orange areas are, again, that unique opportunity of funding available through the bipartisan infrastructure law can be used. So all of these aeronautical support facilities can be funded with federal dollars. There's about this blue portion, there is competitive funding that we're going after. And we just submitted a funding request to the FAA, and looking very encouraging. We had a meeting with the Chicago Airports District office this week, Monday. Very, very supportive of the project, which is going to be key to competing for that federal funding. I mentioned the competitive funding. That's kind of our funding plan A. Total project cost estimated around $6 million. About 30% of that we expect to be is eligible for that competitive funding. But we have a funding plan that requires a lot more, is going to require a lot more work upon the FAA and our partners there on a lot more grants. But we do have two funding plans, one with competitive funding, one without, to ensure that we can move forward with the project and anticipate moving forward with it next year. So next, basically summer of 2025, we're planning on constructing both the general aviation terminal building and the transient hangar. So a lot of work going to be happening next year. If we are successful with the competitive funding, we'll also add in reconstructing the ramp area in front of both of these facilities. But a lot of fun work going on. So I guess I also have just a brief update on air service and operational updates. But before I give that, any questions on any of the projects or more infrastructure-related dealings at the airport?
Supervisor Jensen?
Thank you. Just one question. Are there any usage fees or anything that are incurred by people that use the general aviation office or this new transient hangar?
Yep. So the transient hangar will be a hangar owned by the airport. We typically, and especially in this case, will not want to get into the business of handling aircraft. So the fixed-based operator is the company that provides those aviation services, fueling, handling aircraft, and whatnot. As we're building the hangar, we'll be working out a management agreement with them where they will be charging those tenants or charging those transient users the fee for storage in the hangar, and then the airport will collect some portion of that fee. So yes, for the hangar, there will be fees collected through a management agreement that will be revenue generated for the airport. The terminal building, those bluer areas will be considered public spaces, will be basically non-revenue generating areas. The back-of-house functions are the areas where that fixed-based operator will be operating out of, and the airport will have a lease agreement with them that'll be revenue generating for the airport as well. You're welcome.
Any more questions on anything particular there? All right, let's move on to air service and operations.
Yep. So big news. I'm sure a lot of people's mind. Avelo Airlines did make an announcement that they are leaving the entire Midwest, and that does include Seaway. Unfortunately, we're one of the last airports that they're serving in the Midwest. Most of those airports they had not offered summer service, originally planning to come back for seasonal service in the wintertime. They are flying through the end of this month, but then they did make that announcement that they're pulling out of the entire Midwest. Really has more to do with their business planning and operations and change for demand in Orlando, and less to do with the users and community at Central Wisconsin Airport. Again, why they're pulling out of the entire Midwest. Certainly not good news for the community, but we are seeing increases in capacity and usage both on American and Delta Airlines. That's been severely limited by pilot shortages, crew shortages, mechanic shortages, and aircraft shortages. But we're finally starting to see some of that turn around, and do anticipate some of what we're losing with Avelo Airlines leaving being picked up in capacity with American and Delta Airlines. For a low-cost carrier option, there is demand for it. The good thing is we now have really good data that supports that our community will fly on a low-cost carrier, and we will fill those aircraft. So Brian, the airport director, already has meetings scheduled with Sun Country Airlines, Breeze Airways, and a few others to engage in those discussions and try and bring back another low-cost airline option. So demand for travel in our community is there. It far exceeds our current capacity. I think if every single available seat were sold, we'd be able to capture about 25% of all of the people traveling out of our area. So when it comes to those conversations that Brian's having with the airlines, it's good data to support that our community can support more air service. And like I said, we're starting to see the shortages experienced by the traditional airlines to ease and starting to see growth with them. We're also seeing continued increase in general aviation activity and GA development. We have a new private corporate hangar just broke ground this week. Being constructed on airport property, and with the projects that I already covered, those are to meet that growing demand that we've already seen. With that, this piece is really exciting. We have a new FBO operator. I mentioned earlier, FBO, fixed base operator. They're the company that operates at the airport and provides fueling services, aircraft handling, flight training, things like that. The previous operator was recently acquired by a new company, is now served by Ovation CWA, and they are really doing some great things to try and grow aviation at Central Wisconsin, cater to a much provide a much higher level of service than what we were able to provide before. So you might have noticed some of the renderings I showed had some of their branding included on those facilities. Very exciting partnership moving forward, and a lot of things to look forward to.
Anybody have any questions on the committee? Well, we appreciate the report. I think it's important that we always support our local airport here. It's a great asset for our community, not only the businesses in it, but also the residents. So anytime you have that opportunity, take advantage of it. We will move on to item 7D, Highway Financial Update. Mary.
Good morning. I know in the pack there was financial data for the highway, and do you know how larger in here?
Those are plus ones right up there.
Okay. This is the same report. However, I did highlight the items of note over here. So there's a lot of numbers with the percentage of budget used. But I did want to highlight just the headers and some of the ledgers on here. So the highway is operating within the budget that was approved for last year. And so I just wanted to bring up the percentages and the totals for the revenue and expenses. And so right now we're operating at about a 53% of our total revenues that was budgeted. When we go down to expenditures, if you look at that top line, there was a budget of 34 million. We're sitting at 8.2, 24%. There are some entries that are being delayed, that have not been entered. They were delayed getting state DOT reporting in. But as we look at personnel, we're at 47%. If we go down to contractual, you're going to see some percentages that look a little funny. And really what this related to is when we did the budget last year, we were the first year on Workday using Adaptive. And so we went back and used the budget forms that we had traditionally used in Kayenta. So the mapping had been a little bit different between Workday and Kayenta. And so just some of the things that I'd like to point out is just like in materials, even though there was a $9 million budget, we've used $3 million. And then down at the bottom of that form, you're seeing this 1,300% amount over the expense budget for fabricated materials. And so that's the kind of stuff that I just wanted to point out today. Fabricated materials is asphalt. And so prior, when we were on Kayenta, it was all part of this raw materials number, that 9.7 million. And as Workday, we were able to utilize different GL accounts that were just better aligned with the financials versus Kayenta. And so in Kayenta, they didn't even have an asphalt line. We put most of our items in raw materials. And so as we go into this next budget year for 2025, we're going to have some data that aligns better between the reports that you're seeing in the budget that was presented for the year coming up in 2025. So we are operating within the full budget. The numbers looked a little funky when it came out to the committee and the reports. So I just wanted to highlight these main headers and that we are operating within those. And now with the installation of the new finance director, being able to work with CCITC and hopefully some of our stakeholders, that we'll be able to get better reporting in the future when it comes over to committee. So I know the numbers those percentages looked a little wild, so that's why I went ahead and highlighted the main headers on there. Did you have any questions?
Any questions from the committee?
All right.
Supervisor Jensen.
Thank you. So are these expenditures, income, pretty typical for June, just because we're so early in the construction season? We're not seeing a
So
lot of
you
funds
don't
come
have
out?
a lot of the construction costs in there until August. And also, there was about a month delay with us getting the DOT reports out. And so there's some entries that aren't actually in here yet, but we're still operating within that budget. But, most of the construction happened in June, July. We're still finishing up on August on some of our large construction projects as well, with paving and culverts and all of that. So, hopefully we're going to start presenting these quarterly. And as we go through 2024, is still going to have some of these percentage changes that is going to look different because of the way we had to do the budget last year to get it in time for the county approval. But if we look at these main headers, you're going to see that we're operating within those categories.
Thank you. Then just kind of as another follow-up, is there a way to look at the historical annual report, just as we are stepping into budget, so that way we can take that into account?
So are you talking about comparing prior to going into Workday? That could be done manually.
Correct. Just
We could do that
looking at
manually.
the last few years as it relates to stepping into budget.
I'll take a stab at that question. I think that's one of the limitations, because it requires that manual entry. We will be, in future years, be able to do the comparison and go back a year, but because of the change from Kayenta to Workday, we're not able, it does take those manual calculations.
Have to do it manually.
But we will be doing it next year going forward.
And they're a little bit different. What happened in Kayenta also is the highway department would buy and sell to the different departments in the highway department without doing elimination entries. So with Workday now, you're going to have better numbers, because if we are moving inventory from our purchasing department into shop, it's actually a debit and credit of the parts inventory. And so you're not going to get some of those elevated revenues and expenses because we're not doing it the same.
Thank you.
Supervisor Soibert?
Thank you. Is there a breakdown on expenses from shops? I know we've been talking about possibly closing that airport shop in the future. The kind of savings that would come closing that for heat, electricity, garbage, and all the other, you know what I'm talking about, Jimmy? I mean, you've got, what, 5?
We have 5 shops here. We would have to go in for like the Mosinee shop, for the example, for utilities. We could go back and pull those numbers. But when it hits the budget, they all go to utilities. It doesn't go Mosinee, Abbotsford, Hadley. But I mean, we do have the separate records. We'd have to go pull each invoice from them, like
Thank
public
you.
service.
And I think we're all fully aware of the kind of some of the hiccups that have gone from moving from Kayenta to Workday. I'm hopeful that 2025 will have some of these worked out and we'll be moving forward with a lot cleaner plate and being able to have a better way to compare going forward. So appreciate your report.
Thank you.
We are on to item number 7E, 2024 summer construction update.
I looked at the online ones.
Can I pull this one? Where was that, your flash drive in there?
I think that's the mouse.
Kevin and I will do a little tag team on this one. As far as a couple of projects that we've been doing externally, the Highway T project for Supervisor Dickinson Seibert's information. That project kind of got delayed a little bit because it was cold in place. We needed to have the asphalt at a certain moisture. Of course, this year moisture was an issue all over the place. They did paint that road yesterday. We're having final walkthrough tomorrow on that road, so hopefully by tomorrow afternoon, Highway T, which was a contractor project because we had gotten federal funding on that, should be open hopefully tomorrow afternoon. Another couple projects down in that neck of the woods is Highway O Bridge down by the county line. We are working on, it's a 3-span bridge, so they're working on the South Pier right now. They should be pouring concrete this afternoon on that. That bridge will go into late October before it's open. We have another bridge on County Trunk Highway L up by the county line west of Athens. That project is starting. We're doing pre-construction as we speak right now. That project is scheduled to begin the 15th of this month. And I have some pictures here of the, hopefully it comes up. Perfect. As you recall, we ran into an issue on the County Trunk Highway N Bridge last year over by the Edgar area just west of H. This is a picture last year when we had the project. We had to decide if we were going to run it through the federal program, which would be a few-year process, or if we were going to go with a new innovation out there called InQuick. This committee decided to spend the extra money to get that project up and running. So we began that project on the July 10th. Here's a picture. This is the abutment. So this is an abutment that comes in after we, you can see on the far side, we pour a slab, we put in pilings, and we set this abutment. The abutment comes all prefabbed. It has the steel in it. This shows another angle. This is us, our crew out there pouring that abutment. And you can see that on the close side, the bottom of the screen, their side of piling is when we had to bring Yankee in. We do not drive our own piling, so we did have to contract that work out. It's another picture of the piling being poured. This is our crew setting the east side, the piling. You can see the piling setting up. It's piling coming out of the ground and us setting the abutment on top of that. This is just a shot of inside of the abutment. That's how much steel is in there. They do not have to use green bar steel. The normal process when we build a bridge is we use green bar. It's coated because the coating on it is on it because when Wisconsin builds bridges, they put the minimum amount of steel in it. This bridge had so much steel in it, they do not need to use the green bar because the amount of steel. That was after the abutment was set and poured. There's a short video of them setting the deck. We did have to use Yankee contractors. They are the same people that did the piling to set the deck for us because we had some issues with our crane, but this is just a small video of them just setting the 4 panels for the deck. After those panels are set, we took steel and tied them together. There's a picture of the bridge ready to be poured for the deck, pouring of the deck. That was a structure after it was built, start to work on the guardrail. So we started again this project on July 10th. So we went from this on July 10th, minus the snow, to this picture was taken this morning. A little under a month, we have the bridge open. They're going to be out there next week shouldering it. We did put a treatment on the asphalt, so we can't spray the center line quite yet. But our crews worked very long hours, but it was quite an accomplishment to finish a bridge in under 1 month. So it was hats off to the crew for that. Two other quick things to note before I send it over to Kevin for the finish of the update is I did get, a while back, I talked to this committee also about putting in for future bridges. I'm beginning to get those contracts back from the state municipal agreements. I knew that one of the bridges on Highway S, north of Highway 29, was going to be 100% fully state funded, not the 80-20 split. I was happy when I got the latest SMA and the report back from the state. The bridge on Highway M, just north of 153, envisioned from my house almost, that is just a rehab, but it is a $2.4 million project, so just rehab that bridge. The state is going to fund that bridge 100%, so that was some more great news. So. And Kevin has the rest of the report.
Okay, I'll just run through the rest of our projects that are our major projects. Highway C, down be on the southeast corner between J and I, is very similar to Highway T. It was a state project. American Asphalt was a contractor on that. They wrapped that up last month, so that project is complete. Highway H from 153 to N was a mill and overlay project that our crews did. They paved it, shouldered it. And Jim had mentioned we put down a construction seal on Highway N, which requires a curing period. So we're bringing our pavement marking contractor in about a week and a half, and they'll stripe that Highway H project, and then as well as the Highway N project where that bridge is, and that will wrap those up. The Highway N project was that one we started in the first part of July along with the bridge, and we kind of coupled those two. So put a little extra stress on our guys having to kind of coordinate with each other and work their schedules in. But we had the deadline for the Edgar Steam Show, so we are on track to get the road striped and everything out of there before the steam show starts up. That was kind of our goal there. Highway J from 153 to 29 is a DOT project on our system. That one is starting next week. Northeast Asphalt's a contractor on that. They plan to start pulverizing next Monday, and they're hoping to start paving the following week. So that should be about a 4 to 6 week project. Once our crews finish up on N and H, they have a week to fill in. Our construction crew has a handful of culverts they replace, so there's gravel patches scattered throughout the county. The paving crew is going to go and get those paved in. And then the week of August 19th, they'll start on KK. That's just a mill and overlay resurfacing on that, just to give that a fresh surface. That road's about 18 years old, so we're doing kind of a lower cost tune up the surface instead of waiting a few more years till it starts to hit that downward cycle and turn into a bigger construction project than what we want. Highway J box culvert, our guys finished that one up right around the 4th of July, so that might have been just before the last meeting. So it was a big project where they had a lot of water to fight on that one. They kept getting rained every time and had to delay it a couple times, but got that box culvert in. And today they are setting a box culvert on Highway U right off of 152nd Avenue in Satine. So they've got about a 60-foot box culvert run there. Each piece is about 45,000 pounds that they set. So their crane rolled up this morning, and they're probably about halfway done by now with that one. So other than that, our mowing wrapped up last month, and just trying to get some crack filling in if the rain would stop. So any questions on any of the work we have going on?
Any questions for Kevin or Jim? We thank you for the update. It's really nice to see just the pictures from that project, Jim, to see how quickly that came together and just how it went. Thank you for that. Next on the agenda is item 7F, review of 2024 second quarter budget to actual reports for departments. Is that any different than the financials we already had? Okay, thank you. Moving on, item 8, next meeting date, time announcements for future agenda items. 8A, committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion. If you have anything, please talk with Jim. Item B, next meeting date. It is actually going to be on Thursday, September 12th. That's different than what's written on your agenda, related to when Bridge Aid's going to come in. So please make those adjustments on your schedule. And Jim, if you can work with administration, make sure that's updated correctly on the county calendar. Thank you. With that, we're up for item 9, adjournment. Who shall be? We have Supervisor Dickinson with a motion, a second from Supervisor Jensen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And thank you for a great meeting, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
One follow-up question. So with the 2022 funding for Leather Camp, that was a match for the PSC. So if we don't do additional funding for Leather Camp, as part of
All about spreading the work around.